Okay, game 2 of the semi-final match. Karl Florian with Reanimator against Niels with Grixis Tempo. Karl Florian lost the first game, so he will be on the play now. Yeah, let's see how the starting hands look.
Yes. It is a very interesting matchup to see for me because I like the very fine and delicate choices you have to make, especially on Karl Florian's side to play around all the cheap counters which Niels can have. And Niels has the very interesting spot of choosing when to deploy his threats, which can be quite hard against a deck which can kill you out of nowhere.
Yeah, right. And here we see the Oath of Druids, a card that can especially kill Grixis out of nowhere, because Grixis doesn't have any way to remove the Oath of Druids. So even without the green source in hand, I think it's a keep.
It's a good keep, I think, because he also has Tainted Pact, so he can find whatever he needs.
Right.
The Dinosauria is back, which could be quite nice. And Niels has a very solid starting hand of Interaction, Brainstorm, a Demonic Tutor. The two bolt effects do not do that much in the game, but I guess he can Brainstorm them away.
Yeah, right. Okay, so here we have Gemstone Mine, and Karl Florian decides to not play the Gemstone Mine. He could have played Oath of Druids on turn 2.
I play 5-color Academy with Oath. I tend to just slam the Oath in because it's very often game ending, or at least it hampers the speed of the enemy aggressive and tempo decks. So it's a very interesting choice to go for the Tainted Pact here.
Yes. I think it's also reasonable to wait with Oath of Druids, maybe to until the opponent has a creature on the battlefield to guarantee the trigger.
Yes.
But I think it's also fine to just slam it and tell your opponent, okay, do something about it, because as I said, especially in Grixis, you don't have a real way to remove it. With the Brazen Borrower, Niels has one card that can at least bounce it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you don't have the Brazen Borrower, your only way to win against Oath of Druids is chase the Mind Sculptor, getting to ultimate.
Yes, that is the very hard thing to do, because suddenly you are forced into a play style where you only can Jace or at least do some kind of counter burn play strategy, which is not always the easiest thing to do against a deck which can end the game in a very good turn, like Reanimator.
Yeah, right. So Brainstorm.
And he sees very nicely a prismatic. He can shuffle. Yeah, a prismatic vista. Thank you. He can shuffle away the weak bolting effects and have a nice set of interaction and hand attack. This was a very nice brainstorm for Niels.
Yes, and he's able to get rid of the two more or less useless burn spells, the Arc Trail and Chain Lightning, which do not do a whole lot, rather than finishing your opponent.
And this is all in response to the Tainted Pact, right?
I am not sure. I think when Karl Florian played the Tainted Pact, Niels only had the Misty Rainforest on board.
Yes.
No.
But now
it
is in response. This is the interesting point. Spell Snare is a very good card, I think, in Highlander, but sometimes you only have one or two spells to get with it.
Yes.
Tainted Pact is a very strong card. But now, unfortunately, he opens up the chance for maybe a very strong Oath of the Druids here.
Yeah, I think now is a good time to slam Oath of Druids.
Yeah, it was very well played by Carl Florian bidding. Oh, interesting.
But he still doesn't do it. Okay, so
very
he
patient.
Yeah, very patient, and he really wants to have
A creature.
Niels. Yeah, wants him to have a creature on board, which can now backfire because Niels could now play Young Pyromancer and Inquisition of Kozilek, or just Inquisition, and take the Oath of Druids.
It's a very interesting choice. I would have thought, since you can play around also Days, that he employs the Oath there. But as you said, he really wants probably one creature. Niels draw a Terminate, which can be very good.
Yes, Terminate, one of the few removal spells that are good against Reanimator that you have access to in Grixis. Yeah, big creatures can be a problem for the Grixis deck because you only have Terminate, Dreadbore, which is often a little too slow, and maybe something like Liliana and Brazen Borrower, but you don't have a lot of choices for real hard removal.
Okay, now he decides to take the Oath. It's a bit sad for Carl Florian that he has not. Yeah, he does not have the Oath strategy online anymore. So he now needs to find some kind of discard to get his threats rolling.
Right. And the threat he has in hand now is also suboptimal, I would say. In the last game, we've seen, if he resolves the 10/10 dinosaur, he can basically fight the whole board. But on an empty board, this is basically just
a 2-turn clock.
A 10/10. Yeah, a 2-turn clock. And with a Terminate in Niels' hand, it doesn't cause any more problems because it doesn't draw you cards or doesn't have any other enter the battlefield effect.
And Niels now has very good information, so he can safely deploy his Young Pyromancer.
Yes, and I actually like his sequencing here. So I think it's a good way or a good decision to play the Inquisition first and then see what's up and decide if you can resolve or play the Young Pyromancer, or you might have to keep mana up. This is not the most intuitive play. I think oftentimes you will play the Young Pyromancer and then Inquisition in order to get a token. But I really like this decision.
It is a play which speaks of a lot of experience. Speaking of experience, as I heard, Niels has a deck list which is very close to your list, Max.
Yes, right. I've talked with him a little bit about some choices he made. He altered the list a little bit, plays some cards that I do not. And what he said is that he doesn't like situational cards that's power level depend on the matchup you're playing against. And I think this is a very good approach. So he doesn't play, for example, Pyroblast, something I love to play.
I can understand. I can absolutely understand. As you said, blue is a very strong card, and this is the first two cards, Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, which I did not see in his list.
Yes, right. I think this is also a metagame decision because in Berlin, for example, I've at least heard that there are a lot more non-blue green mid-range decks.
Yes.
So it makes sense to not include something like Pyroblast there. And if I compare it to the Erfurt metagame, very many people are playing blue. So Pyroblast is almost every time a very, very strong card that can create blowouts. But it's also a high risk, high reward. High risk, high reward card.
Absolutely. It is a very amazing card, but as you said, it's very meta dependent. Here in Vienna, where I live, we have a lot of actually Absan and Chant, and also Mono Red and Mono White. So it is a very weak card in comparison maybe to Berlin.
Yes. And a change that he did that I also quite like is he excluded Fulminator Mage and included the Seasoned Pyromancer, a card that
very nice.
printed in Modern Horizons. And yeah, I've seen this card in that list, and I decided that I should try it as well.
Yes,
seems like a very good choice.
The interesting thing about the Seasoned Pyromancer, he's the only double red card I think most Grixis tempo or mid-range decks play. So Fulminator is far easier to cast. So a friend of mine is on Grixis all the time, and he plays Fulminator because of this reason. He only has most of the time one single red.
Right. This was the reason for me to not play Seasoned Pyromancer either, because I wanted to stay away from double red, and I will still have to try it. Okay, so now here we see Dance of the Dead,
and the fighting ability. Interesting. He's terminating in response. Yeah, that makes it perfectly fine. The Seasoned Pyromancer will be still killed, of course, but at least he got out another token.
Actually, the young Pyromancer survives because it is the creature that has to deal damage.
The creature has to deal damage. Yes, you're right. So this is an amazing play, of course.
Yes. So this turns out to be very good for Niels. And now with Demonic Tutor in hand, he's got quite a lot of options. I think the safest is just going for another counterspell here. So he could now play Demonic Tutor, pick up something like Mana Drain, counterspell, and next turn he can even deploy the Tombstalker and still have that counterspell up. So Karl Florian will need quite a lot of cards.
This again plays very to the strength of Grixis' list in situations like these. His power on board is actually not that amazing. It's of course a Pyromancer, but he produces once. But it is enough in combination with the tools he can get to race across the finish line. He can get himself the best counter, and all he has to do is beat Karl Florian down. And Karl Florian is a very peculiar situation of getting back a threat against a blue mage.
Yes, right. And Young Pyromancer is especially good against Reanimator in this case, because you can tap out once, pay 2 mana once, and then you can try to cast non-creature spells for the rest of the game. Brazen Borrower is the choice.
Oh, very nice. This is actually, it's again a very experienced choice, I think, because the only card which it does not work against is against Inkwell Leviathan, and he does not care about Inkwell Leviathan actually, because he can raise the Leviathan with a Pyromancer and the Lily in hand.
Right, especially with the Liliana of the Veil.
Yes.
He knows that he can remove any problematic creature, and with the Brazen Borrower on the field, Brazen Borrower in hand, he can make sure that there's not another creature, for example, and basically makes sure that he can remove anything that Karl Florian deploys.
The Imperial Archangel is a card which is actually most of the time quite good in situations quite like these. The problem is Young Pyromancer will produce too many tokens, and when they attack, all the damage gets redirected to the Angel, and it has 8 toughness.
Yes, 8
as I
toughness.
remember.
Right.
So it is actually killable.
It is killable. There's a long way to go, I think, but yes, you're right. So if especially with a lot of tokens, you can actually remove the Archangel.
Which can happen even if the borrower is on field. But that is just only an afterthought because, of course, Niels has the Liliana of the Whale, which is a very clean answer to the Archangel.
Yes. So we have Stitch together, right?
And yes, and now comes, of course, the play where he can bounce again the creature and fizzle the ability just like he did with the Terminate.
Yes.
It's a very amazing, good play in situations like this. Very tempo play, of course. This is a really tempo-defining play, but it's very nice to look at.
Yes, and in this case, Brazen Borrower is even better than a counterspell because you see, Karl Florian has the Necromancy in hand. So if Niels countered the reanimation spell, the dinosaur would go into his graveyard, and he could reanimate it again and clear Niels' board more or less. But now this the dinosaur is in his hand, and he has no way to reanimate it. So it turns out to be a very, very good choice to not take a counterspell.
Yes. As amazing as Niels played against the dinosaur, I also can very much see the upside of this dinosaur because if you would resolve it, the cleaning up the whole board is amazing, especially in a situation like this. So it's a very good inclusion, I think, for Reanimator lists, which have sometimes problems removing exactly this kind of board state.
Yes, right. So against go wide opponents, this is an amazing card.
Okay, this is the very strong Dig Through Time, and it seems to be Japanese or Chinese. But I see Niels has signed. Yes, Niels has a very like of Asian cards because I see a lot of kanji and hanzi here.
Yes,
it's one of the great things in Highlander. Of course, you can do it in every format to say I personalize my deck, but you have 100 cards you can play with, and everyone is different. It's one of the great things you can do in Highlander if you're into that. I love it very much. I also saw he has some altars. Right now he's digging them, the Brainstorm and the Spell Snare. It's a very nice thing to do.
Yes. I also enjoy Japanese, especially Japanese foil cards.
A random fact about me, I started playing Magic the Gathering again in Japan. I lived for 7 years in Japan, and that was, some playing mates of mine were like, do you know Magic the Gathering? And I said, I play as a kid, so I have a lot of Japanese cards, actually.
That's nice.
Okay, this is a very... Tainted Pact is a very strong card. Ooh, there is it. The Reanimate you talked about, Grixis lists have.
Yes, right.
This seems to be, a very strong Dig Through Time if he can take the Tainted Pact and Reanimate. Or to go sure, he could go for the Gitaxian Probe and Reanimate, I guess, to make sure nothing strange happens.
Yes, he could, but at the moment there's no big creature in Karl Florian's graveyard, I think.
Yes.
So I think Reanimate is a fine choice in case something goes wrong, and Tainted Pact,
because amazing,
Yeah, he at the moment he doesn't have any counterspells, and Tainted Pact can find you Force of Will or Force of Negation, and with Fire Eyes he does have a blue pitch card. So now he just has to make sure that the dinosaur doesn't enter the battlefield.
Yes, a very black hand, yes, but he has that Fire of Eyes, so he can keep him safe. Oh, and there's a Force of Will in Carl Florian's hands. The problem is how to get the and he extends the hands and he concedes the game to Niels.
Yes, he doesn't have any possibility to get another creature into the graveyard, and very nice, very interesting match. And let's see what the finals bring us.